Welcome back to Just Some BS podcast. Today you have me. It's another solo pod. So just a reminder, check out all the links down below in the show notes if you want to get into anything specific surrounding what I'm building. So my book's on there. Certainly checked out my LinkedIn where I drop a lot of the content. Mentorship programs on there as well, but you can look at all of that. So today we're going to talk a little bit about leadership, first-time leadership. I want to go through what I deem as something pretty interesting. So nobody starts out as a perfect leader. When you first get that promotion or you're suddenly responsible for a team, it's exciting, but also terrifying. And here's the truth. Most new leaders stumble in the same ways. The good news, these mistakes aren't fatal. They're fixable. And in many cases, just knowing what they are can save you months or even years of frustration. So today I'm walking you through the top 10 mistakes new leaders make and more importantly, how to avoid them. Because leadership isn't about being flawless. It's about learning faster and leading better. Let's go with number 10 or number 1, however I want to do it. So number 1, this one is so good. And I see it as a major faux pas every time. Trying to be everyone's friend when you step into leadership. So I talk about this one quite a bit. I think going from being a coworker to being a supervisor of people, because you could have some friends in that arena. You could be, you're seen as equal and then you're not. I think being okay with that quick separation, because not everybody will be okay with that separation. People that you thought you were friendly with or didn't have problems with before could have problems with you. So I think there's nothing wrong with obviously being cordial, being friendly, doing all the things it takes to be a good coworker, colleague, teammate, and coexist. But at that point, you also have to start holding people accountable. And I think that's a tough thing. That line between friendship, accountability, giving someone flexibility to learn and make mistakes. It's very difficult to get right. It takes practice. I think it takes time. You have to go through bouts of insecurity and all that stuff. So the fear of being disliked is a real one. You won't be everyone's friend. There comes accountability with being someone's boss or, direct report or whatever that looks like. So I think you have to find that happy balance between the two, to have respect and trust, to look out for your team, to try to make their job as easy as you can, while also having to hold people accountable to what is expected. So that is a really hard one. I see that one very, very often because I think that transition, I'm not sure how to fix that either, unless you have a real sit down with the team and say, this is why we made the decision. I guess the communication piece of that could make a huge difference. And now that I'm thinking about that, we don't do that as well as we should. So maybe when that transition happens, don't leave it up to the team to come up with their storyline. Give the storyline of why it's happening and the pros of why that person was chosen, all of that. I think that would be beneficial. So I thought through that right now as we were doing it. So that's number 1, trying to be everyone's friend. Trust and fairness, the big one there. If you can lock that down. Number 2, avoiding hard conversations. Why it happens? Conflict is uncomfortable, for sure. The problem, issues fester. So never let it lie. Never do nothing is one of my favorite phrases. And then, your culture erodes because of this. So hard conversations are difficult, for sure. Conflict can be uncomfortable, for sure. I do believe it's one of those things that the more you do it, the easier it gets. Well, the more you do it and do it well, you can learn how to do it very, very well, because anyone can just have conflict and then just be terrible at it and make things worse. So being able to really lean into win-wins and understanding people's strengths and weaknesses, talking to people directly about that and the reason behind, and having the data points, not going into hard conversations too quickly with too many blind spots, all of those things I have either done poorly or seen. So that has helped me kind of learn how to do these kind of difficult conversations. But these have to happen. Letting things lie is a horrible, horrible way to handle this. I think fester's the perfect word. It will erode things that you were not aware of, and things will definitely get worse. So learn to lean into discomfort early. Take those things head on. If you're not sure how to handle them, go talk to somebody who you believe is good at that and get some pointers. Even in the age of AI, I've been using that quite a bit as well with conflict resolution and telling the story. And if you can, if you have disc profiles for people or personality indexes or Clifton strengths, and you can plug that kind of stuff in, that could really help from a conversation standpoint, because a lot of that is delivery and understanding and being empathetic and looking for win-wins and all that kind of stuff. So But you have to have them. You have to start having them. Do not avoid them or get people involved that can help you walk through them if you do not feel you're capable or comfortable enough at that point. Because just being around or in those conversations and listening is a great way to learn how to do them correctly if you have somebody in your company or someone you can lean on for that. That's number two. Number three, micromanaging everything. Why it happens? Wanting things done right. That's quote, end quote. The problem, it kills ownership and burns you out for sure. So, how do you not micromanage? Well, you kind of. So, one thing I would say is if you're not going to micromanage and you're going to last for flexibility, that does come at a cost. So, don't think that, I see a lot of comments around like you have to let people do things, you have to fail. Failure is just, part of the success path, blah, 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 all of those sayings. That's true. But let's be real and say that it's going to cost you profit, time, money, rework, whatever material. That could be anything. So there does come a cost at letting people figure things out themselves. It will not be the fastest route every time, but it also may help the future process to become faster. But you do have to pay for that, what I would call R&D time. And so if you think of it as someone training as research and development, it is research and development of themselves. And so we don't mind doing that when it comes to prototypes and things like that. Well, we are kind of prototypes as we're working through life. So set clear expectations, timelines, deadlines, what you're expecting. Check in. If you let somebody go too long or you don't have check-in points for them, they could get really far down the road and that cost will just get larger and larger. And as a manager, leader, boss, whatever, I think that is part of your understanding that you also have to check in or have an expectation of check in for them. I think I struggle with setting expectations because it's like, hey, just go ahead and do this. And however path you find forward, I'm really trying to make sure I set a deadline date at least and give as much explanation of what I think my idea of what good looks like at the very beginning. And I'm still working on that. I struggle with that quite a bit. So this is one for me, but I definitely don't micromanage. I don't think I set clear expectations well enough. So you need to let people grow. You need to let people fail. You need to let that cost of that be okay. And you also need to probably communicate that up as well to say, hey, got a bunch of newer people, newer folks trying new things. Realize that will come at a cost. You'll see that in the KPIs or the data for that specific thing. And if you do that up front, there'll be no surprises. Everybody should be okay. Number four, thinking leadership equals having all the answers. Why it happens? Pressure to prove yourself. So I think when you do step into a new role, especially in a leadership role, you can no longer say, I don't know. That phrase is not allowed in your vocabulary anymore. That is not true. That's just an insecurity of something that's telling you that. So it's okay to say, I don't know, but I'll go find out or I'll go try to find out and then make sure you circle back. Don't ever leave things like that hanging because people are expecting you to come back with something, even if it's couldn't find anything, I don't know. It will cut off collaboration and innovation if you don't, if you say you have the answers or give people answers all the time, and sometimes that's wrong. That'll erode your trust, obviously, as a leader. So it's okay to not know, not be sure, have no idea, know very little things. Lean into that and then just go find the answers, learn, and then give feedback. So you do not have to know everything. That does not mean you're not good at your job. There will be plenty of things you come up against in your life that you don't know. So just don't make it up. Just say, I don't know, and go find the answer and get back to them. Get over that insecurity very quickly because that will lead you down a dangerous path. You can ask better questions and not provide every solution. So don't be afraid. I learned this from AR, my Vistage coach, where if someone brings them a problem, the first thing you do is ask 3 questions before you ever provide any insight or solution. I'm still trying to work on that because I love fixing things, but that's a huge problem of mine that I'm working through. So keep asking questions, ask better questions, listen more before you give answers. Number 5, ignoring culture because the work comes first. That's a good one. I didn't read these beforehand. I like to go off the cuff with this stuff, so it's more natural. Well, natural for me, I should say. So ignoring culture because the work comes first. So as a leader or silent efficiency killer, it will be your culture and how people interact with you as a leader. How comfortable do you make it? Now, some people will say there's a line, and actually our own company says is there's a line of being too flexible and focusing too much on culture. and not having enough accountability. I think accountability is really interesting in the sense of the data tells you whether you're being accountable. There'll be subjective views of giving people too many chances, and the work has to come first. So whether you get rid of people early or too late or whatever that needs to look like, major efficiency gains in an organization is having SOPs and process while also having a strong culture, while also being accountable to KPIs and things like that. So culture does matter. It's the one that you can't, so hard to measure, which is why I think it's mostly forgotten or sometimes disregarded as needing to be important. But happy people will be the fastest workers. I believe it's my philosophy in the company. So whatever you can do to make them happy and make their day, their time at work enjoyable, I'll say, quote unquote. I understand it's not going to be like better than not working. I'm not that much of a naive idiot, but the culture will get your work done faster. If you come into work and you are dreading working with your direct report, you will be going slower. You will have lots of things you're doing throughout the day because of that person in spite, potentially, which slows you down. Or you're just thinking about the person all day or the situation and really irritated, and you're not going to be as efficient. That is what I believe. Culture is not a nice to have, it's a must have. Weak culture leads to weak results. Treat culture as a foundation, not the frosting. Ooh, I like that one. Thank you, chat. Treat culture as the foundation, not the frosting. That's so good. I do think culture grows in healthy companies. So healthy companies have SOPs, they have structure, they make money, they have the metrics to be considered a healthy, quote unquote, company, and then culture fosters in that kind of phrase. I don't think if you were a sick company and you don't do a lot of the basic foundation things of a business correct, I think your culture will be weak as well. Number 6, failing to set clear expectations. Ooh, this is the one we talked a little bit about earlier. I'm also not that good at this, still working on it. What happens is assuming people just know, that's me 1000%. Clear expectations, especially for people who are learning, giving people room to try things out themselves. As long as they have expectations, at least they'll be on the same road. They may not be going exactly like if you're just straight A to B, this person may have a couple stops along the way, but at least they're on the same road because of the expectations. So expectations of checkpoints. How often do you want me to check in with you? When is it due? What does the end product look like? It's almost giving as much information that's in your head of begin with the end in mind and give that to the person. I think that's a really good way to think of expectations. So whatever you're thinking of, this is what good looks like, literally verbalize that to them or put it on paper so they have a clear direction of what's going on. So the problem with failing to set clear expectations is just misalignment, frustration, and rework. Alternative is over communicate what success looks like, which is what we just talked about. I would say verbal is great, but not as good as written. You could do verbal, turn it into a transcript, and then give them written. AI is a master at setting expectations from a verbal dump. Like if you just want to just spit out, just puke the directions into your phone and then let some sort of AI congregate that into a plan. That is a really easy way to come up with 90, 60, 30-day plans or project-specific plans without having to spend a whole lot of time with it. Record your voice, record your ideas, take the transcript, put it into AI or talk directly into AI and let it summarize your thoughts. Boom. There's your problem solved for number 6 for setting clear expectations. Number 7. Not managing up. Why it happens. Focus only on the team. The problem is missed support resources and visibility. Lead both directions, your team and your boss. Yeah, so if you get lost in the sauce because one, it's a new position, it's going to be stressful. There's going to be a lot going on. You're going to have a lot more responsibility of things that you probably didn't have to do before. You're drinking from a fire hose, all the normal things that happen. So not only having to care about the efficiency, culture, day-to-day, how people are feeling in your own group, and then also performing KPIs of the projects that you're over or whatever your job responsibility is, and making sure you're getting all those deliverables done. You also have to be what I would deem is like just a naturally good employee. You have to make also your boss's job easier. So making sure that you're handling as much as you can, getting your day-to-day stuff done, caring for your team, making sure your team is cared for so you're not the squeaky wheel and your team is not the squeaky wheel. And then also learning yourself and upping yourself for that next big opportunity. So whether that be mindset, whether that be growth in some form, reading books, whatever that needs to look like, you need to, while you're managing and learning new skills for yourself, you also need to be skilling up outside of that and making your boss's job easier. So that's a tough one. That's why you feel like usually when you make those big opportunity steps, you're drowning until you're not, because it takes quite a bit of time to get your feet back underneath you and moving in the right direction. But it's also, it's responsibility for your direct reports, but also the responsibility for your direct boss as well. So a lot going on. That's why management isn't easy. That's why you'll get a lot of judgment about decisions that are made as managers, but it is not easy. Usually things aren't completely clear. You're making your best guess or action that is best for the team. Certainly get input from your teammates, but there's a lot going on. There will be a lot going on in your first bump up to management. So be prepared. Number 8, forgetting self-care. Ooh, I've seen this one a couple times actually. Why it happens, you pour everything into the role. So everything we've talked about 1 through 7 up until this point will all cause the feeling of being under the waterfall. And then what you forget to do is the basics of to keep yourself sane and normal and feeling good. Because if you are not at your best, you are not going to bring your best, and your team will know that, feel that, see that, and that'll actually cause it'll cause you bigger problems down the line. So burnout makes you worse to everyone. So that's either for work or for your family. So you need to protect your energy. It fuels your leadership. So in the leadership space, you need to really focus on delegation. How do you do that? You need to figure out what you like doing and what you don't like doing. I know that you're going to say, look, what do you mean? Just pass on the stuff you don't like. But usually the things you don't like are not your strengths. So if you figure out what you're good at and what you're not good at, strengths and weaknesses, then give your weaknesses away, especially if your person that's helping you or that you can lean on, or you have team leads or whatever that looks like, if they have skills that make that very easy for them, give that stuff away. Start learning the dynamics of your team and what their strengths and weaknesses are, so you can pass your weaknesses off, so that people who are really good at it get to do it, and it makes the whole thing easier. And you have to be able to walk away from it. So work is still work. Get out at a decent time. Never sleep at work. The project will be there. When you feel like you're not going to make, you just need to communicate to the rest of the team. So live by no surprises. Just say, hey, we're behind. This is the real story. We're not going to get it done. Do the best you can. Obviously, sometimes you're going to have to go above and beyond. We all do that. I've worked 12, 13-hour days as well, like everyone else. And you have to do what needs to get done. But be clear with expectations. Don't just say yes to everything. Don't take everything on. Be realistic in the expectations of what you and your team can handle. Communicate that, and then just do the best you can while you're executing whatever you're doing from a day-to-day, week-to-week, or month-to-month basis. But do not forget about your self-care. You have to sleep. You have to break away. You have to turn it off. You have to relieve the stress. If you feel like you can't, you need to bubble that up to your direct supervisor or someone to navigate that, because it'll feel like it's too much for a bit. And then just keep having that open communication, open dialogue, so people who have been through it can tell you how to get through it. Because perspective will be the best thing for you here. Because when you're in it and you feel like you're drowning, it's the worst feeling ever. And you feel like there's no way out. There's no way to get ahead. There will be. You just haven't seen it yet because you've never been there. So don't forget about your self-care. You have to sleep. Number 9, overpromising to look capable. I just had this example just last week. We had a customer in and they said, we need this amount of work done by this date. Can you make it happen? Mind you, I'm walking into the meeting cold. I really don't have any idea exactly what we're talking about. So did I just say, sure, it's a customer. I have to make you happy. That's actually what I didn't do. I very rarely try to do that, because remember, you're answering questions for the rest of the team. So you also have to protect the team at the same time. So doesn't mean you have to say no and be a dickhead about it, but it's really around, we're going to have to look at what we can do. And then when we give you that, that is the truth. So we're not going to, we'll look at our schedules. We'll look at our work that's currently in house. We will get as weird as we can in the sense of being realistic, but also kind of pushing things as much as we feel comfortable with up to our limit. And then we will give you what we're able to do. If that still doesn't fit, there's nothing else we can do. Because when you have those situations, don't forget that when you're managing people, you're making that decision and that promise for your entire team. So do not be afraid to take a beat and say, I need to get with the rest of my team before I answer this question. That's completely valid. Do not get sucked into, I have to make other people feel good, so I'm going to overpromise, and then I'm going to have to figure it out with my team somehow, because that's how you'll quickly erode trust with your team. So you have to protect the entity. You have to protect them, but you can say, I will give you the best we can, and that'll be honestly the best thing at that time. Now that could change, like with us, with taking work constantly, kind of daily. That evolution changes all the time, but don't overpromise just to make your your bosses or customers or whoever happy, because then you're going to have to live with that promise, and so will your team. You're not just answering for yourself, you're answering for more than just one person. So take that into account. There's nothing wrong with being really honest and laying out exactly what it is, and when you can give them an answer, and then that answer will be the truth. It may not fit. That's okay, as long as you're honest and you did the best you could in the sense of expectations. I feel like this year's we've had a rampant rise in unrealistic expectations. Don't be a part of that problem. Just be real, lay out what it is, try to figure out and be innovative in your solutions so that you can give the best answer to maybe solve the customer's problems or your own team's problems, but don't go over your ski tips just to make yourself feel better and maybe the person that you're talking to, because it'll erode your credibility when you can't deliver. So under promise, over deliver, build trust steadily. I think that's fair. Don't under promise like you're sandbagging something or just to make sure you never fail. You have to sometimes ride that line to get a bit uncomfortable with the team, but talk to them and say, hey, this is what we're going to be up against. Is everybody comfortable with nailing this? Because this is a big opportunity or this is a big whatever. Communicate that directly to the team, get buy-in, and then deliver that message back to the person who asked you and say, this is what we can do. I talked to the team. We feel comfortable with this. I feel like that's the best way. Whenever we're 50-50, we'll actually talk to the team and say, what do we want to do here? Because we want everybody on board, because we're going to need everybody on board to make this happen. If we do say this expectation out to whoever it is, we will have to nail it. Do we feel comfortable nailing that? I get more people involved usually in this kind of thing than I probably should. I don't know what the right formula is. I just go with trying not to make decisions by myself in a vacuum, because I feel like that's a quick way to get in a bad situation very quickly. That was number 9. Number 10, neglecting to develop yourself. Believing leadership is the finish line. This is a little bit what we talked about before with up and down leadership. Making your boss's job easier while also making your team's lives easier. Making sure not only that you're not forgetting about your health and your own personal energy, but not forgetting to develop yourself, because leadership is not the finish line. But the shitty thing about kind of leadership and culture and safety and quality, it's like continuous improvement for life. So there is no finish line. Just when you think you have a lot of things done, there's another book, there's another generation coming into the workforce that you're going to have to figure out how to communicate with and all that kind of stuff. The world's evolving all the time. We are such complex individuals that you figure somebody out one day, the next day they have something happen at home and they're coming in as a different person. You have to navigate that as well. So it is a constant evolution, a constant continuous evolution into the next chapter, next layer of you. Yeah. Stagnation, blind spots, irrelevance. Those are the problems with standing still. So I just had a mindset presentation just this week that I did for a team, and it was really around this. Like, one of the things I think is very beneficial to people's career trajectories is your mindset. If you're fixed versus growth, whether you work on your emotional intelligence, whatever that needs to look like, that will pay direct dividends, I think, to your career trajectory more than your skills. So something to think about there. So developing yourself in whatever fashion that looks like for leadership. So that's emotional intelligence, that's conflict resolution, that's culture, that's your time management, delegation, your actual skills of what your people are doing, the next phase of maybe what your boss is doing, so you can learn also part of their job. I mean, it's just never ending. Perspective. Just keep working on that and putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. So keep learning, seek mentors, and invest in growth. Yeah, mentors is a huge one there. I think mentors help you with perspective quite a bit, because you can get wrapped in your own head pretty often, and it does not feel that great. So that was number 10. I think those are the top 10 things for newer leaders. It's the most common mistakes for the new leaders. Here's the important part. Making mistakes doesn't mean you're a bad leader. It means you're a leader who's learning. What separates the great ones from the average ones is how fast they learn and adjust. If you're new in leadership role, or even if you've been at it for years, I hope this list gave you a few things to reflect on. I'd love to hear your take. What's a mistake you made as a leader, or one you see all the time that didn't make my list? Shoot me a DM on LinkedIn, or give me a shout out on LinkedIn. and shoot me a message. So that's it. That's my top 10 mistakes for new leaders. If you need any guidance or any of these hit you hard and you want to have a conversation about them, certainly let me know. Shoot me a note on LinkedIn, and don't forget to check out the show notes once again. And that was my solo pod, just under 30 minutes. This is a topic I've been thinking about for a little bit because I see it quite a bit with some of the team members in our company at SWF. So I thought it'd be cool to bring to the audience. So thank you very much, and we will catch you on the next one.